And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Happy holidays. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region, and this is your Alaska aviation weather outlook on the day before Christmas, Wednesday, December 24th, 2024. And we have our main weather feature on this Christmas morning coming up from the North Pacific. Low pressure will eventually enter the southeastern and the central Gulf as we get into Wednesday, Christmas Day night, and early Thursday. As that happens, though, the wind field will be increasing over the western, southern part of the Panhandle, including Dixon Entrance on Christmas Day. There is a high wind watch for these areas late this Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. Very strong southeasterly winds gusting up around and even over 60 miles an hour will be possible. We have IFR conditions anticipated up across the northern Panhandle, intercoastal mountains for Christmas Day morning. Back along the western Prince William Sound, eastern Kenai, as along the west arm of the Alaska Range, and then this broader band of wind-driven areas of light to occasionally moderate snow from the Arctic coast down across the Brooks Range, east side of Norton Sound, western interior down toward the YK lower basins, and then also here along north side of St. Lawrence Island, IFR conditions. We have strong northeast to north winds. There's a pretty tight pressure gradient here along this area of the west coast. So high winds are also a problem in that area as well. For Christmas Day afternoon, MVFR conditions are likely. We're going to have sea level, low elevation rain, but up into the mountains, you're going to get snow, plus stronger winds, low level wind shear because of the nature of the turning winds around the low center as it lifts up toward the lower portion of the Gulf by Wednesday night and Thursday morning. Meanwhile, still IFR conditions just east of Prince William Sound, Copper River Basin along the west arm of the Alaska Range. Also continuing along areas of the Arctic coast, New Exit, Dead Horse down through the Brooks Range, Norton Sound, YK Deltas, the coastlines there out toward the central Aleutians. For Thursday morning, we find IFR conditions all along much of the Panhandle, northeastern and northern Gulf Coast, including the Copper River Basin, around Prince William Sound, the eastern Kenai, Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula, southeast Bering up along the lower Yukon River, and then up through Norton Sound, east end there of the Seward Peninsula, western Brooks Range to just east of Utqiagvik, and then Thursday afternoon, IFR all along areas of the upper Chukchi Sea coast and along and just east there of Utqiagvik down through the western interior, down here through the southeast Bering Sea, including Bristol Bay and the Alaska Range. Also, IFR conditions are expected Thursday afternoon around Yakutat on into the northern and central, especially intercoastal mountains of the Panhandle. Now, the pass is on Christmas Day. Anatuvik Pass, IFR conditions are expected, as will be the case there at Adigan Pass. There'll be snow coming down along with those low ceilings and lower visibilities. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR conditions expected there. Rainy Pass, also IFR. Now, Windy Pass may be kind of on the border. MVFR, IFR, though, just west of Windy Pass in the heart of the Alaska Range. As we go east, though, VFR conditions are expected Christmas Day at Isabel and Mentasta passes, and then dropping down across the Copper River Basin should generally be VFR Tanita Pass, but as we get toward Portage Pass, look for IFR conditions there. Christmas Day morning giving way to MVFR conditions, and then finally, the northern Panhandle. IFR conditions are likely there on early Christmas Day, giving way to MVFR conditions. And of course, with the system coming up from the North Pacific, the low is going to take a track like this. It's going to bring warmer air aloft. We see freezing levels coming upwards 6,000 feet, Dixon Entrance down toward Haida Gwaii. And as that happens, you're going to have some precipitation, as I mentioned, rain, cold rain at sea level, even upwards a bit, but you get in those mid-upper elevations in the mountains there, you're going to have snow. And there's potential for moderate icing there in the Panhandle above 6,000 feet, above 4,000 feet along the northeastern, northern Gulf Coast, maybe even in the lower Susitna Valley and any clouds there. But more importantly, this band is more persistent of light to occasionally moderate snow. Brooks Range down here into Norton Sound, lower Yukon Delta, we'll find in those snow-bearing clouds above 4,000 feet, moderate icing, also an area of moderate icing above 4,000 feet. centered around St. Paul. Upper level jet stream winds, not all that impressive. Jet core is well southeast of Alaska here, coming into the Pacific Northwest of the continental U.S. around Vancouver Island, and they are just southward into Washington State. 9,000 feet mid-level winds, though. You can see with the circulation, the mid-level circulation of that low coming up out of the North Pacific. Broad belt of 45 to 60 knot winds coming into the southern and lower portion of the Panhandle into the British Columbia coastline. And then back to the west, we have a broader northerly flow across the Bering Sea at 35 to 40 knots. And then at 3,000 feet, you can see the circulation, the lower level circulation of that low lifting into the lower Gulf with winds 45 to 60 knots, especially up here coming in through the inside there of Dixon Entrance and along the southern and western areas of the Panhandle. Back to the northwest, where we have those stronger north-northeast winds, 45 to 60 knots there at 3,000 feet. So naturally, that's going to be a trouble spot for some isolated severe turbulence there, the Bering Strait, Wales, Steller down through St. Lawrence Island, and also within the vicinity of Savunga, there could be some heavier freezing spray that builds up and causes some issues. Back further west, we have moderate turbulence expected through the western and central Aleutian surface to 4,000 feet. And then as we head out along the Gulf Coast, starting Talkeetna Mountains, Chugach, into Prince William Sound, moderate icing. But as we get off of the coastline there into the Gulf and along the west and southern portions of the Panhandle, that would include Sitka down through Klawock, Craig, on over toward Ketchikan, Metlakatla. There's a high wind watch in effect for this area, so we expect the potential for some severe turbulence, that circulation around the low surface to 6,000 feet, along with the threat of low-level wind shear. So there you have it for Christmas Day, and have a good and safe one.